Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of Termite's Buzz, a usual weekly video game podcast where I run you through trophies and video games I'm playing, as well as the weekly video game industry news and following up with a retro discussion at the end. But I actually have a very special episode for you all today. If you haven't read any of my social media posts or any of the headlines for the title of the show, I have a special guest with us. I am welcomed onto the show by Computer Booter of PS3 Frankenstein Mod fame. So go ahead and say hello. Thank you for joining me on my show.
Hello, yes, thank you. You can call me David or
right.
Computer Booter, whatever makes you more comfortable.
Oh, yeah, all right. I didn't want to dox you. I don't want to reveal your full real name and your full title with social security number. So yeah, we got a list of questions here. So Computer Booter, if you don't know, if y'all have been following my stream, I got a Frankenstein PlayStation 3 mod that I hyped up dramatically on my show, and I posted all of the links to Computer Booter's Facebook and YouTube page. He live streams all of his work every single day, and I was so excited to have my Frankie done. And I'm so ingrained in the video game industry that I was like, we got to show this and share this. And so follow my social media links. You can find all those things over at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's a landing website, 80bitpodsmash.com. There's a link tree there, and you can see past posts, past episodes. But leading up to and sending the Frankenstein, the PlayStation 3 across the country, Computer Booter is from California. I think you're on vacation. So
yeah, I'm in Maryland
if you don't,
right now,
yeah. What brings you to the East Coast?
So my parents actually lived, we moved when I was around 12 years old to Pennsylvania, and I lived over there for 12 years. And I actually moved myself back to California. So I left basically my immediate family back in Pennsylvania. And I haven't seen them since I started Computer Booter, the business. I haven't seen them for like maybe 5 years now. So I figured it's way overdue for me to take a visit. So I was finally able to rip myself away from Computer Booter and the daily business and the streams too, which is relatively new. I think I've been doing the streams for about a year, a little bit over a year now. So, but it's nice. So I flew out to Maryland last Saturday, I believe it was. No,
it was like over a week.
Yeah, I guess 2 weeks. No, because this would be 2 weeks. That I'd be here this Saturday. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope the East Coast is welcoming. I like Maryland when I go up there occasionally. I'm from Virginia, so I'm a few hours south of you.
Yeah, we're on the East Coast is what they call it, though. The East Bay. East Bay is, I think they call it over here in Queenstown, and everyone is very friendly over here.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people have been saying hello and like, well, genuinely, not just like, oh, hi, like, the people are actually stopping and saying, oh, hi, how are you? And it's a little bit different than Sacramento, in my opinion, a little bit more friendly.
Oh, wow. I've never been to Sacramento, so I wouldn't be able to know. I have no idea. Sweet. Well, thanks. Again, thank you for coming on the show. This is awesome for you to share your time with me. And so what's it like to be Computer Booter? What is it like to be you?
Well, it's definitely an interesting journey that I've been through to where we're at right now. It definitely feels like I'm in a unique position, at least for myself, because, there's not too many people, at least locally, that I know that do as much as I do all in one place, and it's hard to find. I'd love to have like a bigger team. I'm not very great at the like manager / boss / like official stuff that the business has to do, but I do have a successful business. So it's kind of like interesting. You think like, well, how do you have a 7-year-old business, but you don't know how to do the business stuff? But I mean, I know how to do the back end stuff, but it's more like, hiring and all that stuff is what I feel like I can definitely grow in. So, right now I'm just busting my butt. As you see me doing my live streams, I'm doing, repairs throughout the day, all week. It's a blast. It's definitely enjoyable. I really miss being in the front of the store, though. I have the boys that you guys, a lot of people who watch the stream know Maverick and Josh, and they're up front running the trade-ins and ringing people up and processing all the games and putting them up on Mercari and different websites and stuff. And I don't get to be a part of that anymore because I'm always just repairing, So, but I have enough work to do that I don't need to be in the front anymore. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it seems like you have a strong entrepreneurial spirit to even think about doing. You're essentially running two businesses at once. You have a full-on repair shop. It's not just video game consoles, but computers, laptops, some phones, and you have a full front end with inventory management and stock, and like you said, hiring and firing. if you have to fire customer service and
Yeah.
like selling and trade-ins and all the things, like you really do, like you have a lot going on. What do you do outside of work? Like what are other things that you like to do? Because that's so all encompassing. As a business owner, I
Yeah.
can't imagine. Like I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you say that because, when I started the business before I did that, like I did tech work all my life and I've done it for families and friends. So that was kind of like, it wasn't a job. So I was just doing like a little bit of tech work here and there for people and for myself as like a hobby. I loved computers and building and video games and all that. So my hobby was collecting video games and, repairing and learning more tech stuff, I'd started doing some coding and some HTML and stuff like that, but it was never my interest. I like the hands-on, the hardware aspect of it, really digging your hands into it. But I used to play a lot of video games and I used to collect a lot of video games. So when I got the shop after as time went on, it kind of like took that away from me a little bit, just because what's the point of having a video game collection at home when I basically have a video collection every day when I go into work? So
Yeah, yeah.
it was just kind of redundant, and it kind of took a little bit of the joy away from the collecting and the video games, since I'm surrounded by them all the time. So I kind of had to change that up. But outside of work now, I mean, I'm starting to get into I want to get into repairing my dad's. He gave me his 1976 BMW. A lot of people in the stream have seen the pictures of it, but I've started restoring it a little bit, replacing some parts on it, and I really want to get into doing some of that, more of that as like another hobby.
Wow. So like, are you talking like car mechanic engine components? Or are we talking interior restoration or body work or
I
all of
think
it?
a little bit, yeah, a little bit of both. You know what I mean? I don't think, I'm sure I'll hit some snags along the way, but it'll be a fun learning experience. But it'll just be more of a hobby. But yeah, a little bit of everything. I think that with this car, it's going to be a lot different than working on anything like newer. This car
Oh yeah.
is pretty simple compared to like anything new. So it's all non-electronic, and
Yeah.
so it's interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's what a journey. That's crazy. So you sounds like a normal like American like path, right? You go to public school, you graduate high school, you do the college applications and the tours. Maybe you go somewhere for university, you stay, you live there, you get a degree and all those things. But did did you find that video games kind of instigated a different path for you? You were saying you were into video games, and I'm only speaking from my own personal experience to shed on some light to me and my audience. Like video games shaped my desire to get into programming. So I did get a degree, but I didn't have any funds saved up, so I had to kind of work my way through college and lived at home. But I got a computer science degree, so I do know coding very well. That's what I do in my
Yeah,
career now.
nice.
So like video games shaped my mentality of what I want to do for my life.
Mhm.
And it sounds like we have a little bit of a similarity there. Did you go to college? Did you go through like that path?
I did go to college. I didn't finish college. I went to Penn State Berks campus in Pennsylvania, and then I went to DeVry University for electronic circuit training. And I wish
Oh,
that I would
nice.
have
Yeah.
completed either one of them
Okay.
because they would definitely, at least the electronic circuit training is more along the lines of what I'm doing now, as opposed to when I was in Penn State Berks, I was in for informational sciences and technology. And that was kind of like put your suit on, sit at a table with a bunch of your peers and write up like a project document. And you have to,
Oof.
and I'm just like, not my thing, but
Yeah.
I almost finished that. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. Like Steve Jobs didn't finish college, so you don't need to do that. You seem to be doing really well for yourself. It's pretty awesome to see. Which is
I
why I was
appreciate that.
curious as to what the college path looked like for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, especially with the video game store aspect. But sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah. No, you were mentioning, what was your first thing that you were mentioning about that subject was, not college, but, um,
Public school.
no, I was trying to remember, hmm, I had a comment to say, and then we went further. So, but it's no big deal. I just was trying to think of,
We're talking about your BMW and restoring that and like outside of work life, and then
yeah,
we
no,
transitioned into yeah.
yeah, I can't remember what it was, but it was
I
something
said like
about like
normal
business.
American path, or and being a business owner and like deviating off of the regular path, so to speak, and being an entrepreneur. Is any of that triggering?
Yeah, it's along those lines. I can't remember what my subject was, but it was basically something along those lines. But I'm sure we'll figure it out when
Yeah,
we're
circle
talking
back
here.
around.
It'll come
Sure.
back around. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk more in depth about your store and your repair business. That you so the name of the business and the store both are Computer Booter. Is that
Yeah,
true?
computer booter. I remember now it was about video games because you were saying how
Okay.
are video games,
Shaped.
basically shaped what I did. And that's funny because I think that if you just focus on video games, then maybe it would be harder because then you'd have to do specifically something with video games, whether it's playing them, streaming them, designing them. And at a very early age, I'd say about 5 years old, I was playing on an old Macintosh SE, which is a black and white Macintosh, and they
Nice.
didn't have too many graphical games on there. It had like Prince of Persia and like Dark Castle, Crystal Quest, and a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
other graphical games. But a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
games they had on there that I actually liked were the Infocom games where you had to type out, like you had to read it and then type like walk north, open pocket, like
Yeah.
search inventory, like use this on that, and like I had to type to do that. So of course, like when you want to play a game, you don't want to be like walk no, or you're like, come on, go. You want to go like north. You want to
Of
open the book.
course.
You want
Yeah.
to go in here. You want to hit the guy in the face. You
Yeah.
want to do the things that you need to do. So I had to learn how to type. Had to learn how to type really quickly. So I
Yeah.
think I think that video games made me want to learn how to type better. And then also, as technology went forward, it's sad to say that I wanted to play all the games. So since I couldn't afford them all, I found creative ways to get those games and get
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
working. And I had to learn how to do all of that stuff with the internet dial up, and I had to learn how to use all the programs to be able to do all that stuff. So I self-taught myself pretty much everything. I mean, a lot of people do, but I think we were blessed to have been born at that time rather than now, where it seems like it's a lot harder for kids to actually do more advanced things at an early age because everything's done for them on computers.
Yeah.
So that's definitely how video games definitely helped me out. And same with the consoles. I was into consoles since the Game Boy and Sega Genesis. So that's how it got me into the tech work.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like what a story. That's really cool. The history with video. I want to go on a little bit of a tangent. A little fun. I was just talking with some guys, some neighbors, about how I was alive. I feel like during an amazing time, amazing transition in the gaming industry at the right age. So I was in sixth grade. That would have been what 11 years old
Mm.
when the N64 was out and Pokemon had hit this like Smash Bros, Pokemon cards, Pokemon Red and Blue, N64, like the bridge into the 3D world of video games, like Mario 64. I was in fifth grade when it came out. So sixth grade was like Pokemon Smash Bros. But like I was the perfect age. And the reason why that came up was because we have kids and like I have an 8-year-old who's super into games. And so I'm passing
Mm.
that kind of on to him. And we have a
Nice.
great time playing games, talking about games and stuff. He's playing Tears of the Kingdom and I'm like helping him out. It's fantastic.
That's
But
awesome.
I think you're right. Like when I was learning computers, my family was pretty like I wouldn't say poor, but we didn't have internet. Like dial up was not affordable, so we didn't even have internet. But we had a Windows 95 computer, and my parents had zero clue how to run the thing, and they just bought it because they figured we would need it for school. And I learned how to type. And
Nice.
then, in high school, we finally got broadband when cable was a thing. I guess my family's financial situation turned around enough to be able to
Yeah.
afford it. But then I got into Counter-Strike, which, like, what a legendary
Oh
time
gosh, yeah.
for, like, a mod of a first-person shooter Half-Life to be, like, Valve hired the developers and made Counter-Strike. But that's how I learned how to type because I didn't have a microphone and like a headset, and I had to type like burst commands to my team to like tell them what I'm doing, like capture the flag, right? Point A, point B, go in B,
Yep.
like go in A, like
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I learned how to type real, like it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But what like I feel like we're close in age. We've dated ourselves now, talking about like when games came out, when how old we were, but like we really did strike at a perfect time because I feel like folks that were in their 30s and 40s in the 70s and 80s were too old to keep going. And so like Pac-Man hit, Pong, in order, Pong hit, Pac-Man hit, maybe Space Invaders, a little bit of Arcade Mania, and they were done. They checked out. Like that was it. They'd go to the bar, shoot some pool, play some pinball, mess around with Pong at home. Atari was cool. They dabbled and moved on. We're like,
Yeah.
we were post NES. So we were, I don't know. I just feel like it was really good. It was a mind blowing conversation. And in my show, other episodes, I have this video game of the year book that I've been going through,
Nice.
written by a guy named Jordan Miner. And I just started at my year of birth and like I've been moving through talking about each game. And that's kind of the context of where I've realized, wow, what a time to be fifth, sixth, seventh grade at that age with what was coming out, what was going on. It really did shape our whole lives. Sorry, that was a big giant tangent. I
That's
apologize.
awesome. Yeah, I know.
So that's kind of
Memories.
like my history with video games. So do you have any like memorable, like big video game childhood memories or like core memories of games, like favorite hits from, I just highlighted a few of mine. So
Yeah,
what do you think?
I mean, like Game Boy for sure. I had some of my favorite hits that were on there. Um, you know, um, of course, Metroid was on Game Boy, and I played that. I also really liked puzzle games, so Tetris was like really big for me when I was a kid. The
Yeah.
Wario Land games,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
Kirby's Adventure was really good on Game Boy, and then Zelda Link's Awakening
Yep.
was really good on
Fantastic. Yeah.
original Game Boy. I didn't even play the DX version because it wasn't even out then, but that was probably one of my favorite games. And then I graduated from that. It's funny because like for me when I was younger, I was always into the newest thing. I wanted
Yeah.
the newest video games. I wanted the best graphics. And as soon as anything else came out, like once I got a Genesis, the Game Boy was just put in the closet and I never used it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once I was like, it was funny. I have a funny story about that. When I was younger, I wanted the Genesis and it was at Costco. So every time we go to Costco, I'd see the Sega Genesis with the Sonic 2. I think it was. It might have been Sonic 1, but I think it was
Okay.
2. And I wanted that for my birthday. And my parents, I had kept telling them that I wanted this. And
Yeah.
my neighbor was a lot older than me at the time. He was probably in his mid-teens, and he had an Atari 2600. And I would go over there, and he rarely would let me into his room. Like he would just shoo me off most of the time. But occasionally he would let me in, and I'd play the Atari. And I was like, oh, this is
Nice.
fun. But it was more because I got to hang out with him, and
Yeah.
it was like a older kid that I got to hang out with. So that birthday when I wanted the Genesis, my parents ended up actually going over to his house, and I guess he ended up was selling his Atari at the time, and he sold my parents the Atari with a bunch of games. And my parents thought it was a good idea when I wanted a Sega Genesis and Sonic the Hedgehog to buy me an Atari 2600. You can imagine what happened when they gave me that Atari 2600 on my birthday.
You're like,
Yeah, I was like, no, like this is not Sega Genesis. This is not Sonic the Hedgehog. I was like, this
Oh,
is
your
cool,
poor parents.
but I was pretty ungrateful. But I wanted Sonic. I don't know when I got that. I don't know if they got that for me on that. I honestly have to talk with them and see when I actually got that. But I did not get that at that time. So
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I would say that though my most memorable would probably have to be, and I tell everyone that my favorite system is PlayStation 1, because that was when I was at the age where I wasn't really a child anymore. I was more of like a young adolescent. So
Mhm.
I was at the time where, well, maybe a little middle adolescent. So I was at the time where I could actually like buy games, or I would get more. I was more interested in it, and I was more, like RPGs were big. So Final Fantasy VII, which is
Oh yeah. Yeah.
probably the only game I ever pre-ordered, to be honest with you, at that age.
Nice.
Like I never pre-ordered any games, and that game I was like, I'm pre-ordering that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a good memory on that. Just the entire playthrough, and at the time too, it was. I don't think there was anything like it in RPG style that was coming out today that would rival like what Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, did for the RPG era of the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was a legendary release. And there's a neighbor house friend of ours. I still hang out with him. We call him Jimothy, Jim, James, whatever. Like he's a friend of ours on the show. He's probably listening to this episode now and laughing. But he doesn't remember this the way that I do. But we got a PlayStation for Christmas from my grandma. My brother and I did. And he didn't have one yet, but he was tuned in to Final Fantasy, and he knew 7 was going to be amazing. And I didn't. I was ignorant and slightly young. And so he bought a copy of the game, not owning his own PlayStation, because we were neighbors. He could just walk up the street to our PlayStation and play it. And I remember him doing that. And we stayed up till like 2, 3 in the morning watching him play, Final Fantasy VII, reading the text with him. And I remember like dreaming about it that night because it was so invasive and so exciting and so awesome. And the music was so good. And I thought the whole Midgar thing was enough to be a full game. And then I thought that was the end of the game. And then it wasn't. And I'm like, what? Why are there 3 discs? Like the game is over. No, it's not. That's
not
such a
even
tiny.
close, yeah.
And but it was so meaty and had so much going on. Oh,
Yeah.
legendary! I could gush
really
for
same.
days about Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, it's still my single favorite video game of all time right now. Still, even like the remake was amazing, but the original one, chef's kiss. It's perfect.
No, I definitely have to say, I mean, even after playing a lot of games before and after that, I have to say that that's probably my favorite game of all time too. But the problem with that is it's like, it's definitely individually based. You know what I mean? Because it
Hmm.
was at the right time in our lives, probably. And video games were also pretty, especially advanced video games like that, you know, coming from Pong and stuff. That's cool and all. But going from that in 16-bit to something like PlayStation 1 is just incredible. And I feel sorry for the newer generations that aren't going to be able to experience such leaps of technology and such leaps of graphics. It's not the same, you know, going
Yeah.
from just PS4 to PS5 even. It's like, sure, it looks better, but it's not like going from Super Nintendo to PlayStation 1 where you get 3D graphics like for the
Yeah.
first time, you know? So, it's pretty interesting and but yeah, definitely at the time, that game, it, you know, really spoke to me. And I think it has more to do with my age because I think that if it were to come out now and I'm into video games now, it probably wouldn't have the same effect on me. And, you know,
Right. Yeah. And are you playing through Final Fantasy 16? I think you said you were on your stream.
oh, yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I feel like that could be a potential for to be that game, at least in the Final Fantasy franchise. Like something that's like doing something amazing in that space. But because we came off the same year, we're in the same year as like Hogwarts Legacy and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and just look at last year, like we have so many of these like third person perspective action oriented sort of pseudo RPG titles, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon
Yeah.
Forbidden West, right? They're all so similar and they're all like not really, it's not gonna hit. Like you're right. You feel sorry for the current generation that's just now growing up because you've been conditioned by the last entire generation, like from 2013 is when PS4 came out to now. The last 10 years have all kind of been like, even if you go back to like Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2, and like you go back into the PS4 library and dip into those, like you're generally doing the same kinds of things. You're
Yeah.
jumping, you're attacking, your third person camera view, camera just control is all the same with the little like there's not been a lot of advancements in storytelling. It's been amazing for too long. You know, it's been like so good for so long now that like, yeah, you're right. The giant leap in technology is maybe
Yeah.
not the same. I would love to interview like a Gen Z like kid to talk about like if they have experienced anything close to what we maybe they grew up on the Wii and you know they're now experiencing PS5 and so they could see a bridge and I don't know. I digress.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's a
get a
fun
lot of
thought experiment.
customers that come in and it kind of blows my mind because they'll be like, yeah, you know, when I was a kid, like I was playing like the GameCube, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's, you know, like
Mm.
way further on in when I was playing games because like when I was playing GameCube, it was like, you know, way later. I'm still a long time ago, but still not like, you know, I was playing Game Boy, Nintendo, and, you know, Super Nintendo when I was really early. So, uh, just interesting, man. But thinking about it, I guess I would have to ask them. Probably it would be GameCube or PS2 released games that would be their favorites, you know.
Yeah,
And that's what's going on right now. Actually, PS2 and GameCube are probably the hottest systems,
they
whereas
are.
Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and even I mean Nintendo 64 a little bit better than the rest, but Nintendo and Super Nintendo are nobody cares about them anymore. The you know,
Interesting. Yeah.
older people, 30s and 40s people will come in and buy them, but they're reserved buyers. They're not like these young kids are going out buying every game under the sun just to have it as a collection. It doesn't seem like there's when I was collecting NES games, I'd go to the store and be like, "What do you have?" And be like, "Okay, I'll take this." You know,
Right.
I wanted like 20 games to go home with. And as
Yeah.
people come in, they're like, "I'll take one," and I'm just like, okay." Like,
Yeah. Wow, interesting perspective from a store owner, especially. Yeah, selling retro titles because the retro video game market has shifted
yeah,
dramatically since the
absolutely.
pandemic. And I was just getting to the point where I had enough disposable income to really start getting like everyone online calls them like the grails. So expensive games, right? So we're talking like the Earthbounds, the Mega Man X3, the like even on the GameCube side, the Pokemon games, hundreds of dollars per one title. You know, I was just getting into that phase of life where I could start to justify I'm growing a collection and I want to buy Sonic CD for Sega CD and it's $110 and that's okay. But then you go into a store now, it's like Earthbound is $5, $6, $7,000 and that's a fair price. Like that's just what the market's doing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And GameCube, I'm not done yet. And there's games I want
Oh
that I
gosh, there's
still
so many.
haven't found,
So
but
expensive.
it's just so yeah, it's so. I wonder from actually this is kind of be a new inserted non-planned question from a store owner perspective. Like, what do you do when the market price is so high, and you know when someone trades this game in? I'm sure you have some sort of algorithm or something in your head about how much value to give the trade in, but you want to sell
Hmm.
it for a profit. Of course, you're making money and you want to
Hmm.
give a fair market price. And you know people are going to make comments like, "Come on, this for a GameCube game," and you're like, "Dude, yeah, that's what it's worth." Like what's your perspective on the retro gaming market with the crazy inflated prices we have now?
Yeah, I mean, what I found, especially with my shop, at least in my location, which is kind of made it, I think, a little bit easier, is that like all the other stores in the area are 20 to 30% higher than what you would find it on VGPC and eBay.
Okay.
So for me, if I just put the games at around what VGPC and eBay are selling them from, then for us, we're the most fairest priced game store in the area. And I can afford to do that because I do make most of our money off of what you see when I do on the YouTube. Like I'm constantly busy, so of course I'm going to make more money doing a HDMI port repair or something of the sort, where it's like practically pure profit, minus my time because a port costs what, $1 or $2, so I make the money as opposed to buying and then selling a game and only making the profit off the difference of what you buy the game for. So I'm able to keep our prices low and closer to that. So I mean, I honestly rarely do hear customers saying like, wow, that's too, like, they know the prices. Like people are pretty
Okay.
well informed about the
That's good.
prices, so
Yeah.
generally I don't really hear that much.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, it's definitely a thing. And when it comes down to it, like most games are relatively affordable. You'll get like, some games that are like, $80 to $100, and then you get those outliers like um, Fire Emblem for GameCube that's like 700 or what, $300 to $500 for the game, and then like if it's
Yeah.
sealed, it's like $700 or $800. And
Yeah.
I think we actually have a sealed copy of it, and I think we have it at like $700 or $800. And I'm just like, what the
Wow.
heck, I'm like, but I think when people trade those in, I'm kind of more, if I know it's going to be a game that's not going to sit on my shelf for 5 years, somebody's going to be interested in it,
Yeah.
then I'm going to give them a lot more of what it's worth. I'll approach more because there's such a gap as the game gets more. Even if I go to 50% of the game value, if it's worth $500, $250 a meat on one game, it's still a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot of profit. So like I can bend that a little bit as opposed to a game that's worth 50. If I go 50% on that, then what's the profit? Like 10 or $15? Like there's no meat on the bone. So I can go higher on a more expensive game if I know that I'm going to sell it, because it's only one game, so I sell it and you make what, $70-$80 profit. You don't need to make 250.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you do have to be careful on those, because they do sit for a long period of time.
Right.
You can have a game for a year or two before somebody whips out their wallet and spends $700. So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that's I suppose I'm assuming here like where Mercari or your eBay listings would come into play with a game like Sealed Fire Emblem. You have now the internet like scope as far as like who's going to buy it, right? It's sealed. You can take pictures of it, show that it's sealed, and you cast a wider net as far as geographical location your buyers, right? I
Yeah,
assume that's yeah.
for a long for 3 or 4 years, I didn't do any online sales because I didn't want to take away from our local community. But then, yeah, I found out that there are some items that you're going to have to do that with, um, and to be able to move them. Otherwise, literally, people are going to come into your store year after year, and that expensive sealed console or game is going to be sitting there, and it's just at that point, it's just like a piece of history for the shop, but you're not really making any money, so.
Yeah.
But sometimes I actually do buy things like the Vectrix that I bought. I didn't want to let that leave because I'd never seen one come in for trade-in, so I bought that almost at retail value just to keep in the shop, and I'm not even
Oh,
selling it,
nice.
so
Okay.
it's, in some higher end games I'll buy and I'll give almost what they want for them because you never see them. Like if it's
Yeah.
like something really, really nuts that you really never see, like Hagane for Super Nintendo. It's like I just want that in my store because if we post that on social media, everyone's gonna be like, "You got Hagane? Like I'm coming in to check that
Whoa.
out." Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Smart. Yeah, it's actually a really good segue. I have two questions about your business, and they're kind of like interwoven. So I'll hit you with both of them, and then we can like go back and forth. But why should a potential customer choose your store or business over others? And you sort of touched on that a little bit with your competitive pricing. But then like, what are your thoughts on the competitors, the bigger names like DK Oldies, GameStop, PS3 Specialists.com, for example? Like, yeah, so why should we choose Computer Booter? And you mentioned your local focus, right? So maybe that's part of your answer there. I'm just trying to, instigate a little bit. And then, yeah, like, what do you think of the bigger names like GameStop and DK Oldies? What do you got?
Yeah, as far as the competition goes, I really have no problem with competition. And in fact, I think it's necessary and it's healthy to have
Mm-hmm.
competition as long as it's not somebody trying to cut your head off and like literally kick you out of business. I think it's healthy to have that like friction. because each store is going to have their own thing. Like people are going to like I found that some people like other stores as their favorite stores over ours. And at first you might think, well, why? I want you to like our store as the favorite. But you kind of need that, you know what I mean? Because you need to have those favorite customers that go there, and then you need the favorite customers that come here, and you have to ask, why is it their favorite store? Our store, in my opinion, is unique for the area because I feel like people feel really welcomed at our store. They don't feel like it's just a GameStop where you go in and you're like, just like, hey, how you doing? Like, kind of like you're a number. And I mean, I guess it really depends on the store that you go to, but like a lot more often than not, that people at GameStops, you feel like they're not really there with your best interests. Like they're just kind of there. It's a job for them. So I think we're very, very welcoming, and we actually do like games. We actually play them. So I mean, even all the way from the retro to the new. So I feel like you can come in and talk to us about almost anything, and we'll have something to say to you. But I mean, why choose us? I don't know. I let it up to whoever the customer is. If you want to do business with honest people and people that care about games and care about you, then that's why I say come to us. And especially for the repairs, I feel like it's like finding a good mechanic. You find a good mechanic that you trust and isn't gonna like say like, hey, I did your oil, but I think you need new brakes and this, that, the other thing. So you do all that, and then you find out later that from another mechanic, it was like, actually you had like 80% brakes left. Why did he change your brakes? Well, just to get your money. So it's hard to trust people. And I think that if you find a tech, or even that, not to say that I'm perfect and I don't make mistakes, but I'm not going to make a mistake on purpose on your dime. I'm not going to, do that to somebody. So I think it's nice to find somebody that you can trust. I like to treat people how I would want to be treated, and I hate it when that stuff happens to me, man, because it feels bad, and you almost know it's happening, but you can't really do anything about it because you're ignorant, right? I don't know anything about cars, so somebody could take advantage of me easily, and then I wouldn't know, and that just doesn't feel good, I don't like it at all.
So. Yep, and that's actually a testament to you as a customer. Full disclosure, audience, I bought a Frankenstein mod from Computer Booter here, but what led up to that, I mean, Frankenstein mod is expensive, rightfully so. It's crazy complicated, extremely technical, and it requires a lot of work and time. So like the price that you offer is exactly what it should be. It's completely fair, but it is expensive. And it does there is a barrier of like trust, right? I don't live anywhere around you. I can't go to your store. I can't introduce myself to you in person. But what lowered that barrier dramatically was your live streams. And I watched you fight PlayStation 3 motherboards. You went infinite, like crazy above and beyond, like levels of debugging and troubleshooting and trying different things for customers. You went way out of your way, and you didn't even ask them for consent. You're like, this thing needs a new power supply. They didn't ask for it. They wanted a Frankenstein. I'm gonna give them a new power supply. Oh wait, it's not reading Blu-rays. It doesn't read PS2. PS2 fail. Okay, we're gonna try a different Blu-ray disc. I got one over here. You just pull it off the shelf. You're like, I'm gonna try this, and like you're not nickeling and diming. You just want the console to work. And so Absolutely. I saw that on your stream, and you do it with, I'm just using PS3 as an example because that's the focus of the show, but you do it with everything, like a Switch HDMI repair. I don't know. Switch doesn't have HDMI port. That's a stupid example, but like Xboxes especially.
Yeah.
Or like anything you're doing when it comes to repairing and replacing things, you do go like above and beyond for your customers to make the thing work. Dude, I don't know if you remember this, the remote control that some random person came in, and it was like a very specialized piece of equipment. You spent weeks on this remote controller, and I don't even know what it was for. I watched all of it, and I have zero clue what it was for. And I don't know if you did, but like you're like, oh, here's the motherboard. We're gonna do all the. You did so much, and you didn't charge them for that time, and that right there is a testament to like your customer service, your devotion to your customers, and you putting like your money where your mouth is, or your actions speak louder than words. And you're doing it all on stream to the internet. Like everyone can see what you're doing. It's fascinating.
And hopefully you benefit from it too. I do find it's definitely unique because it's not like just a cut video. It's perfect on there. It's just kind of like a reality TV show of, I guess, like a repair shop owner, but everyone's different. So it's me, doing my repairs, doing my daily grind,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And what, like, did you plan that, or was this kind of like an impulsive, I'm going to start streaming my daily job? Like, what's the deal with the streaming?
I mean, so I was inspired by some big names out there. You know, I was watching Louis Rossmann when he was actually repairing MacBooks because he barely does that anymore. But when he was,
Hmm.
it was honestly incredible to watch him and listen to him basically tell people what he's doing, how he's doing it, shows you the schematics, basically teaching you how to do what he does. And I found that to be just mesmerizing because I loved, since I was really young, like I said, I love tech work. So, you know, other people I was watching as well, but Louis Rossmann and Paul Daniels, who, you know, they were kind of like streamers doing the same thing at the time, really uh, definitely really I wanted to do that, but at the same time I didn't want to do it exactly like them because you know, as you see, again, I'm very busy with all the repairs that I do, so I don't have the time to like edit. I don't have the time to do any of that. So, and I
Hmm.
also did not want to be a personality. I did not want to have to live up to any expectations, even false ones that I created for myself. But like I'm the booter, you know. So like I actually never started calling myself booter or boots or any of this stuff. It just kind of came from the community, and you know, it's fine. But you know, I didn't want to be anybody on the internet. I just wanted to do my thing, and you know, I know that there's a heck of like-minded people out there, and lo and behold, including you and everyone else on the Discord. We just have like such an awesome community on there. All the people that have rallied around what I do and have given me love and their time and support and everything is one of the reasons why I keep doing what I'm doing. You know, because
Hmm.
that's more important to me than anything at the end of the day. That we have like some sort of cohesion, some sort of unity, some sort of like helpfulness between each other. That's like kind of like what a community should be about. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're right. So that you do have a Discord. I am a part of it. I'm also friends with a local tech. Well, he was local to me, and when I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and he has taken advantage of. I don't learned from you, and
Mm,
I've encouraged him to jump into the Discord. He's setting up like a BGA station. We're looking at
nice,
RIP Felix. He just dropped that new video of him doing the.
nice.
So audience members, if you're listening, go look at YouTube RIP Felix, like his entire
Keep
BGA
on going
station
with
and all
that
these
because I
things.
need to grab my charger.
All right, sweet. And yeah, so Fredericksburg Console Mods was my local technician, quote unquote. And I would send I still do send consoles to him to get repaired because he's local and I don't have to pay shipping. I can just drive there and drop things off. But Computer Booters, like ideology here with community and support and getting the most technically minded folks kind of under one umbrella. It's fascinating to watch. It's fascinating to see from the tech space is with console repairs and how technical it can be, electrical engineering. It's crazy. And I know that I've encouraged Fredericksburg Console Mods to join in on the Discord. He watches the videos, he gets involved, and learns a ton from what Computer Booter is doing, from what RIP Felix is doing. I know I'm not a tech. I know zero about like soldering. I'm awful. I will break everything. I have zero intention of even trying to do that. I don't have any interest in it. I love watching it. I love being involved because the community is so cool. It's so good. Like you said, welcoming, accepting, and I've learned in so much that I can almost talk the talk without walking anything. Like I'm not trying to be a persona either. I'm not trying to like say I'm a tech. No, I will be the first person to tell you, don't give me a soldering iron. I will wreck your boards. I will destroy everything. But I know things. So like I understand now because of Computer Booters community. Like I've learned in infinite. It's actually like intellectually stimulating in a way that is it's such a niche thing or niche, however you say it. That's so outside of my other world. Like I'm a defense contractor, so like I do computer science things for like the Navy shipboard defense systems, and that's like my life. And I
That's
play
awesome.
video games, so I consume them, and I watch a bunch of shows and movies. You know, I consume that content. But really, this whole tech console like repair thing is like so cool to be a part of and to watch and to be in that community and like not have any stakes in it. Like I don't have to feel like I need to validate my presence there. I don't have to like share knowledge. I do
Yep.
help and answer questions when I can, but I'm not trying to be like somebody I'm not. And that's just a testament to your community and the thing that you fostered. Was that all organic or it just happened like as you
Yeah, I
were?
mean, again, it was just from doing the streams and then people rallying around, you know. And I definitely like to think about it as just like it was already a community of people out there. I mean, I know they're like gathering on, you know, my Discord, quote unquote, and Booter's Discord and whatnot, that's humbling. Like I appreciate that, but I just think it's interesting that there all these people are already out there wanting to do these things and just to give it's like we all have a spot now. So I feel like even though it's my Discord and stuff, when I go on there, I feel like, I'm just with my people, like people that are like-minded, and very few problems so far which I'm amazed about, that there's been very few like issues really with anything. Everyone seems to be helpful and patient, and same thing with the streams. Like I have mods, but I've never really ever had an issue with anything happening on the streams. And I'm not super huge. I don't have 200-300 people watching me, or thousands of people for that matter watching me at one time. But not in not one way or the other. I don't really mind which way it goes. But I still feel like with the amount of people we have watching us, it's enough that stuff could happen. And in the year that I've been streaming, it really hasn't, which is awesome. Like props to everyone on the streams and on the Discord for just keeping it cool the way it should be.
For sure. This is a good segue to talk specifically about the PlayStation 3 community. So before I even knew you existed, I was perusing the PlayStation 3 subreddits, and they have links to things. I had heard of PS3 specialists. Again, the Fredericksburg Console Mods individual in Fredericksburg, that's his Facebook business. He does console repairs. I was given this PlayStation 3, the AO1, if you will, like the launch model, and he did some work on it, and so he's kind of clued in. He's a tech. So I had like these like tangential sort of. I didn't really fall into PlayStation 3 mod tech community until I found the PSX Place. Is that what the website is called?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then so someone had mentioned you, and then I found your website and your stream, and then I found the biggest names in PlayStation 3 repair that are actually reliable and good, that are not ripping people off. You had under your umbrella. So where did the specific PlayStation 3 console stuff, like how did you find that? Like how did you get involved from just computers to that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved into all types of electronic repairs. So like PlayStation 3, just another console that I used to repair. Now, I will say that I wasn't doing any type of BGA work or anything, I would say a year and a half to 2 years ago, as far as a large BGA, like the PlayStation 3, the large the RSX chip, doing those types of large BGA replacements, I wasn't involved in until I started doing the Frankensteins. And how I got involved in that is that I already knew that yellow light of death was a thing. And, just like Felix points out, if you watch his videos, that the whole community was like, oh, it's the token caps. And, Felix and everyone calls it the Great Token Massacre of 2018 or whatever it was, where everyone was like, oh, it's just the tokens, no problem. Like, and everyone's ripping apart their consoles and slapping on these horrible caps. And it would work for a little bit, and then it would die. So, when I found out about that, I was honestly, that's why I stayed away from those token caps too, because I just didn't believe it either. I was like, no, it's got to be something more. So, but I finally jumped on the bandwagon. And so when I hadn't met Felix yet, and his video wasn't even out yet. Yeah. So I had got the yellow AVX caps, which everyone in the community hates those capacitors because they're not rated for it. I got them. I got a PlayStation 3 backwards compatible, yellow light of death, didn't do any error code readings, didn't do nothing, just slapped some of those on there. The very first time I powered one up, I mean, and that feeling that you get when you power, especially when none of the information was even out there about whether those caps are good, no Rip Felix videos, no nothing. Feeling that PlayStation 3 that it gave me when that thing turned on and I was able to play on it was so crazy feeling. Yeah. That's literally what started my desire to want to preserve those specific consoles, the AO ones, because I know how special they are within the community because they were only made for a short period of time. Right. That was actually crushed when I found out that one died very shortly after that. And again, if anybody knows and watches my streams and see what's involved with doing VGA work, not only finding the right machine, but finding enough donor boards to even start your journey on practicing on them, finding the time to do all of that, and to dial your machine in. I mean, you can do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. But it does take a lot of time, and it's hobby, sure. But I have to do it as a business. So it's like, I had to get it right. I had to get it down. I spent so much time getting that up and running and doing that. But how I met Felix was that I don't even remember why I got onto. I don't know if I found it through a Google search, but I ended up at PSX Place.
Okay.
And what's really funny is that I started I started one of my first Frankies because I figured out how to do the Orbis mod chip after
Hmm.
reading some of, and at the time I didn't really know who Felix was, but I could get that he was like one of the major guys on PSX Place that was giving a lot of the info. So I knew he was somebody, but I hadn't been introduced to him yet. So I went on to PSX Place. I created an account called, I think I had my personal name on there and it's since changed it to Computer Booter. And I said, hey
Nice.
guys, like I'm new here. I'm going to start doing these Orbis mod chips installs, and this is my first one, and I need some help with my BGA station to get it dialed in. So here's my YouTube link. I'm going live right now. Like, check it out, and if you have time, pop in, and we can maybe figure some stuff out. And
Nice.
only one person from the community popped into my live streams, and that was Victor Muris. If Victor's always on the streams, he's from Romania, and he
Okay.
was like the first person from the community to reach in and basically help me. And lo and behold, he had the same rework station, the Jovi 8500 that I did. So he
Nice.
basically fast tracked my progress into learning how to use this machine properly to take these chips off of the board. Well, the funny story is that stream, of course, all my streams get saved on the internet. So after that stream ended, I guess Felix had seen my previous post asking for help, but he didn't chime in yet. So when he saw my post, he was like, let's see who this guy is. And he watched the video after it had been uploaded. Then he went back to PSX Place and made a post and says, I got a 6-pack of beer. I'm going to watch this, not really, but this idiot. But he didn't say he didn't specifically say that. He was like, this is gonna be good,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Right. Of course.
and so he literally did just as his style, where he goes very deep into detail and he's very meticulous. He
Yeah.
literally wrote, and it's on PSX Place somewhere. I'll have to find it because it's history. And
Yeah.
he wrote this like long review of like step by step of everything that I was doing and how funny it was to him and why it should be better or why
Wow.
it should be whatever, and like was like literally critiquing me. So when I found the post, I it came back on and I was like, this is hilarious. This is really, really funny. And I was like, I've never seen anybody like critique me or anything like that about, and I had a blast reading it. And that's
Yeah.
literally how I met Felix and how we started our relationship doing this Frankie's. And he has a real love for doing things a specific way. And,
Yeah.
he's a very interesting and very knowledgeable person about a lot of things on the PS3 that most people will never ever be, and never be.
That's like crazy. One, there's so many facets going on. You are doing your craft. You're trying to run a business. You're trying to like get something, like there's a market here, and you're trying to tap into that. But also you need help. So you're humble enough to ask for help, and then R.I.P. Felix being so like knowledgeable as someone like a way ahead of you at that time, coming in and critiquing you again. Humility for you to accept that critique as actual help and not just be offended by it and be defensive, and then reaching out and establishing a relationship and realizing his expertise and letting that like dictate how you work going forward. It's so analogous to like the computer science world. We do code reviews where like you write code and then you send it out to coworkers and they look at it, and it does require like a level of, you got to check your ego. Like, we're all here doing the same thing. We're all passionate about, in your case, it's PlayStation 3 repairs. We want to get these things working, and we want to like work together to move the entire mod technician like forward as a community and like learn new things and be the center. Like, you have that mindset and work together. That's just awesome. Like, and that is, it's contagious, like I want to tap into that. I'm not a tech at all. I said that earlier. Like, I'm not even trying to set up a BG, like zero. I don't even want to solder, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to, but it's so contagious. It's so like palatable. I want to get in there and like learn all this cool stuff. And it for me, it comes from like a passion of learning Sony's history with PlayStation 3 and the entire thing. There's an amazing book that I helped kickstart that I'm about to get for my audience. I'm about to like, it comes in soon. I'm going to read through it. It's the entire chronology of everything PlayStation 3, all the way from like the pre-release, the E3 moments, the wrong pricing strategy, the cockiness of PlayStation coming off the PlayStation 2, and like going into the hardware failures and all the things that happened. And that's kind of like my passion, and tuning into this tech mod space and finding RIP Felix's video and just like he documented in depth like the history of NVIDIA and ATI and the company that manufactured the chips versus NVIDIA ATI that ordered them, and then Sony who like the
Hmm.
layers of abstraction. It's crazy. I don't know where I was going with that thought, but just your humility and RIP Felix's like genius, but also PSX Place. It's not just you two. There's other folks too. Like I think of
Oh yeah.
Ace and Squeeped and other folks I can name drop, but they're all so smart and everyone's doing the same thing and everyone
Hmm.
has the same vision and passion. You are kind of, I don't know if you know this or if you have this perspective, but I look at it as you are assembling like the Avengers of the PlayStation 3
Yeah.
tech mod. Like they're all in your Discord. They're all together. And they might have their own streams, they might have their own communities and their own
Yeah.
stuff and they're doing their own silos, but something about your work and I don't you just talked about how like PS3 spit what was the website? I already forgot. The community,
PSX
the
Place.
PSX Place like was already established and you jumped in and started this and like you cultivated the community and now like everyone's coming under your like quote unquote umbrella but together in your community. Do you think that the other folks also have the same thing going on in their own communities? Like do you reach out to them in their spaces and watch their streams and is that a thing like
I definitely support them. I mean, Ace has started to stream almost identical to what I do. A lot of people don't like streaming. Like I know Felix for one would probably never do that because he really likes to make sure that his videos are like you see them, that they're awesome. His
yeah.
videos are much different platform than I am. You can watch it and boom. I mean, he grew to like I think he went to 8,000 subscribers just after his first video was released in like a month, and it took me a year to get to 3.5. So
Whew.
you can
Yeah.
see how he deserves it. Not no questions asked. I'm just saying you can
Mhm.
see what the internet really wants to see are these like really awesomely developed videos that he spent a lot of time on. It takes a lot of time to do that,
Yeah,
and
it does.
and it pays off just in that. I mean, especially if you're trying to monetize your channel. Like I said, I have my channel monetized, but it's not for this. Like, I don't do this to make money. I have it
Mhm.
monetized because I'm doing it every single day. So why not just while you're watching it live, there's no ads. Then after it goes up live, if you rewatch it, then you might see some ads. But like, why not, right? And
Yeah, and that's like
that's what I figured.
YouTube's
But
auto thing doing its stuff. You're not dictating what ads, right?
well, no, I have to turn monetization on for the
Yeah.
video so
Okay.
that it injects the ads. But yeah, I don't touch any of that. And again, if for some reason I were to lose my monetization, I would still be doing my streams every day because it's not a moneymaker for me. It's not something that I wanted to start out. Now, if I did want to, then I would stop what I was doing at the shop and I wouldn't do live streams and I would just make sure that I recorded stuff and I would edit them properly and put them up. And I already have a year's worth of stuff that if I could pay somebody to go in there, chop them up, make videos, and probably have them re-upload them, and I would probably get a lot bigger. And it's fine. Maybe one day I'll have the time and desire to do that, or find somebody that crosses my path that could do that for me with me putting in very minimal amount of effort. Who knows? Because there's a lot of information in my live streams that are getting lost as time goes by. And I used to label my live streams with kind of the more important things. Like if I did something that I hadn't done before in my live stream, like a Jaguar cartridge port replacement or some weird repair that I never do, I would try to label that in my subscription so that later I could find it or other people could find it if they were looking for that specific thing. Because I also do a lot of repairs over and over and over again, like HDMI port replacements. Nobody wants to see another one of those things.
Right.
Everyone's seen a PS4 or a Switch USB-C port replacement. It's the harder repairs that people really get a kick out of it. The ones that are harder, you know, as I'm visiting my parents here, my dad has a 1970s Marantz audio amp receiver that was blowing its
Whoa.
fuse when you turned it on. And I learned a lot of stuff. I fixed it while I was out here, and it took me probably about a week to fix it, of recapping it and figuring out where the problem was. And it was a blast. So, and now it's up and running and it sounds phenomenal. So it's just another thing that I can add to my repertoire. Actually, every time I do a new device that I've never done, I'm like, it's not really that much different than a game console. I mean, it has the same things in it. It's just how it uses them. It's a little bit different. So, I could offer it, but the difference with me is that I'll offer like an audio amp replacement now. Like I'll do a full recap of your unit and I'll try to fix any other problems with it, but I can't guarantee that I can fix it. So I mean, generally, if I were to get a new device in like that, I would fix the problem with the unit first before I recapped it. I'd make sure it works in its current state before I did anything. But it's just something else I can add to my repertoire because I do everything from the laser disc player all the way
Hmm.
up to the PS5. So it's
Yeah.
like it's pretty cool. And again, all thanks to as well all the people that have shared stuff with me to make this a reality. So it's super neat to be a part of the community, just like you said. And I owe a lot to the people that have helped me and asked for nothing in return. So
Yeah. For real. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned asking. So I don't monetize my thing either, but I thought I had like an audience and so when I first reached out to you, I don't know what your thoughts are because you haven't really shared how your response was initially, but I don't know if you remember this. I emailed you and I was like,
oh
"Hey,
yeah.
I want to send you my Frankie." And like I'll tell my audience about this live stream that you'll do and encourage tips. Maybe you can pre-hype it and glean some money and knock the price down of the Frankie based on like what I would bring to help you. And your response was so like awesome and humble. And I realized like, okay, that was a dumb idea. I don't want to do that. That's not who I am at all. What was I even thinking? So I'm just going to send it to you and I'll, do the regular customer course of action. So one, apologies for that. Two,
Oh.
your community, your response was awesome. And like your community's been great ever since, but do you, do you have any response to that?
No, I mean, I don't, no apology needed. I mean, it was a perfect idea. I think more so what I felt from your response was more like you really wanted to just do an interview and you thought what I was doing was awesome and you just felt it and you wanted to make this a reality. So it was like kind of like a bundle deal. It's like, hey, like I could do this and it would work out for both of us. So I didn't really feel like I felt like I just didn't have the time to think about it because like,
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
more or less I was just like, let's just do the thing and do the thing. Like I was just like, I don't really have time to think about how this all would work out. So let's
Yeah.
just, it's more or less like that. Like a lot of people don't understand that I just don't have the time. Like even to the point where I feel bad. I wish I could learn more about like different logic board repair, but I just don't have the time. Or if I could make my shirts with computer booter on them. And all I have to do is spend time making the logo, putting our name out, and then submitting it to the thing. But while I'm back at work, I just like I can't find the time to do all the things that I need to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's I mean one big thing is that I don't have good time management because I am so passionate. I'm super stubborn. If I get something that I need to fix, I will literally like avoid eating and going home until I can figure it out. And
Hmm.
like you'll see me on my streams and I like people are like go home and I'm like but I'm still working on this. Like I got to figure it out or at least got to finish this. Like and I've been like that all my life. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy about stuff like that.
It's tough. Like I've seen car mechanics, motorcycle mechanics in my whole life, great, like growing up doing the exact same thing. It's at some point there's like diminishing returns of banging your head against something and you're hungry and you're tired and it's like, at what point that whole threshold thing and
Yeah.
taking and looking out for yourself. I'm not gonna tell you how to do any of that. You're an adult. You do you, boo. Like you do what you got to do. But
I
yeah,
mean, I
like you
think
were. Yeah, go ahead.
you reaching out to me, man, was like it was really cool because it's not that often that you get like kind of like the wow factor from somebody and the appreciation that you offered, which was really like heartwarming, that and
Nice.
still like even like the fact that you wanted me to come on here. So those are things that it feels like I'm also giving back to, and it's nice. It's something that I like to do. Like that's one of the biggest reasons that I enjoy having a business because I'm able to make money that I'm able then to do things to help out either the local community or people that have helped me. Like behind the scenes, anybody that's helped me, I like always try to contact them and do something for them, whether it's acquire something if they're overseas that they can't get there, or whether it's send them a piece of equipment but that they might need as a gift, or offer to help them maybe get their name more well known, or like or whatever it is. Like I'm not a selfish person, so if somebody gives
Yeah.
something in return, I mean, I will try to do something in return as well. Again, though, I am a business, so sometimes people take it the wrong way and they're like, well, you're being greedy in this because you're like making money off this Frankenstein and all these people did everything for free for you. I'm like, but I'm a business. Like I
Yeah.
have to have services that people want and charge them for it, and it has to be worth my time.
Yeah.
You know, if it takes me half a day to do a Frankie, I can't do it for $200. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't do it. Like I just can't do it.
Hmm.
But again, like I try to tell those people, it's like, hey man, if you got the business model, if you think you can afford doing that for people, then you should start up your own business, get all the equipment, do what I do, and you can do Frankie's for $200 all day long. Like,
Yeah.
like nobody's stopping you, if you think you can make it. But see, in business, you're in business not just to make money, but you have to make money to flourish, to add new things to the plate, to do more things for the community, to
Yep.
get more employees. You have to be making more because employees are extremely expensive. So
Sure.
I don't think that a lot of the hobbyists or people sitting behind their keyboards, some of them realize that. Like you do. I can tell that you definitely obviously do, but I don't think a lot of people understand what's involved in it. And I don't really defend myself. I'm just like, okay, well, you could do whatever you want, but I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything bad here. So
Right. And the flip side of that coin, right, where people perceive that you have consumed all this knowledge and now you're using it to make money, and so like you're this mogul or whatever. No, like
Mhm.
these other folks that are doing the Frankies are also charging people money to do them,
Mhm.
or they are doing it in their garage, like RIP Felix, and they're sharing their knowledge willingly. And there is no selling of knowledge. There's no agreement. Like, you're not taking advantage of, you are engaged and actively participating in the community and the conversation. So it's not like you're just taking them for you and using it, exploiting it for yourself and your own selfish benefit. And that comes crystal clear through your streams and your interactions with folks on your stream and in Discord. And I could gush forever about how awesome
Yeah,
all that is.
that's the
Yeah.
cool thing about Felix too, is because one, he gives his information freely, and when he's helped me troubleshoot a board where I had absolutely no idea how to fix it, not only one is he teaching me in a way that it's not just telling me what to do, but he's like, hey, check a look at the schematic here. What do you think's going on? What do you think you need to do? And then when I figure it out, he's like, yeah, see, like, now you
Mm,
understand it. And not only that,
yeah.
I did it live. So now it's
Yeah.
up there for the benefit of all the other people watching to like kind of learn
Yeah.
from that. So again, in a way, in an indirect way, sort of more, it's a direct but indirect. I'm also giving back by allowing, having the platform that I have, which is awesome. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what that's literally why I started doing the streams, because like I said, I didn't want to be a personality. I didn't want to have a like computer booter show. I didn't want to have that. I just wanted to be like, this is what I'm doing. Feel free to watch. And you can see that I don't really explain what I'm doing unless somebody specifically asks. I'm like, okay, but I'm not doing a play by play for 8 hours a day, because
Right.
that's how long I
Yeah.
do my streams. So, but if you watch and you want to ask questions, then somebody will be bound to tell you what's going on, or I will if I have time.
Yeah, yeah, and it's awesome how interactive you are with that, and how it's a skill to be able to keep track of chat and like focus on your stuff, especially with microscopic, almost microscopic like level components. You're looking through a microscope, you're hunched over, like doing the thing, and it's funny. You sometimes show a scale. You're like, here's a Q-tip, and here's the capacitor I'm working with. You're like, holy crap, dude, that's
Yeah.
so like, how do you even do that? And you look up at chat and like keep track of a conversation, and you're managing Mav in the front, and like.
It's
Sometimes
a
you're
lot of
yelling
fun.
over your shoulder about like, this game is do this thing with this customer. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Like you're managing and leading your business too. It's so fascinating to watch. So I encourage everyone to go check out Computer Booter.
Well, I really appreciate the support. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Oh, it's fantastic. And like I have you on my phone, like I'm in the kitchen doing dishes, or like rallying the kids to get them like entertained and getting themselves settled. And I'm like, I have you on my phone. I'm like, my wife will walk in and she's like, you're still watching? I'm like, yeah, dude, it's so cool. Like, look at it. It's awesome. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever, you do you.
Yeah, I never thought of the different ways that it helps people out to have a stream that's like our stream, and it's really interesting. People use it. Some people are like insomniacs, and they use it as white noise, and they like to wake up to my voice. And I've never
Mm.
had that like compliment before. It's like, oh, the dulcet tones of Booter. Like, and I'm just like, I'm like, all right, guys, fanboys, like, relax.
All right.
But
Whoa.
but yeah, I've never had that. Like, and again, I was never searching for that when I started it, but it's really interesting to see it happen, because there's a lot of people in the world, so everything is bound to happen. It's super duper interesting. I really love doing it. I love giving back that way. It's very enjoyable. Definitely one thing I've missed on being on vacation is doing my repairs and doing them live.
Yeah, sure. You've been gone quite a while, and I saw your post on Discord about like, hey, if you're missing my repair live streams, like go over here and do this. I was like, oh yeah, hey, look at that. But that's not Computer Booter, so I didn't do that. I didn't follow your directions, but yeah.
That might have been
uh,
Josh actually that said that, honestly.
oh, okay, nice.
One of my employees, yeah.
Yep. All right. Um, So I guess we're over an hour. I want to respect your time. I promised you an hour, so I don't want to take up more of your time. So we'll kind of move into an outro here. What this is a new question, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But what do you see the future of computer booter, like maybe 5 or 10 years out? Like, what is the? Do you have that goal? If not, that's fine too.
So I wouldn't say that it's much of a goal because I feel like almost I don't know how to get there, and
Hmm.
also don't know if it's something that I can that is going to happen, because I don't feel like it's just going to happen naturally. I think it's going to be something that I'm really going to have to put in some work and money to make it a reality. And it's, it's again kind of like starting your own business. Is it like, if I make this investment and if I do this time, will the people come? Because it's like
Yeah.
it's very uncertain. I definitely have ideas. Like, so before I started streaming near the end of COVID, I guess. It was about a year ago, right? That was like kind of near about roundabouts where the ending was. And before that, for 4 years, I ran tournaments, local tournaments at the shop.
Oh,
And
cool.
our shop is not that big, but
Hmm.
the way that it was set up was there. We had the biggest Super Smash tournament in Sacramento, and it was a what do you call it? It was a sanctioned event. So that means that like the actual whole of the Super Smash tournaments, this was an actual event that you could go to, I guess, like make it into the leaderboards for like the whole community,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
worldwide, I guess, or like at least United California, I don't know exactly how big it goes, but it was definitely like a big deal. And
Yeah.
we had like a PR group here and everything. And so
Wow.
we ran Smash tournaments Tuesdays for Melee and Fridays for Super Smash Ultimate, and then Thursdays for like fighting games like Soul Calibur, Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z. So
Nice.
three days a week from like 7 o'clock at night till like midnight or 1 in the morning, we were running tournaments 3 days a week. And we had for the ultimate tournament, we had some big events where there was anywhere from 40 to 70 people in
Wow.
our store. It was popping, like it was
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
So that was, I don't necessarily want to bring that back, but what I do want to do for the future, well, what I really like to do is I would like to just spend a lot of money on, like, kind of like be the Radio Shack of retro games.
Okay.
I'd like to have all those little parts and mod chips and shells and buttons and anything that you could do to customize your controllers or your console or the mod chips, or maybe solder, have tools that you could buy to do all the stuff that you want to do, and have an entire area of the shop dedicated, possibly even have a couple workstations set up with it, that you could just come in and be like, hey, I need to do this mod. Can I rent this station out for an hour or two and just sit down and do my work? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the
That'd be
same
sweet.
time, they could be like, hey, I have a Dreamcast. I'm going to go to Booter today. I'm going to buy 2 hours of time on the bench, and then I'm going to look at the wall and see what I want to get for my Dreamcast. Oh, here's a clear orange cell. Sweet, I want that. I want the battery thing for the BIOS battery and the rechargeable battery. I want to get, the GDMU, and I want to do all of that right now. Like, boom, I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And like that would be sweet. Or if, hey, say you just want to come down and get like a repro game, like a homemade game that somebody homebrewed game for Nintendo, you could find it here. Or if you wanted like a battery for your Game Boy game you wanted to solder in, you could find it there. You could buy it in a little baggie, just like you'd get at Radio Shack. It'd be super
Yeah.
cool, but I would need a lot more room for that, and then a capital
Mm.
to buy all that stuff, and then hopefully that it would sell. Because obviously they're not retailers that sell these things. So you're not going to get them at a discount that you can get. If you can get the shelf for $35 on AliExpress, I would have to sell it for $50 or $60. And, somebody's going to want to have to buy that and have it today, then wait 2 weeks to get it from China. And, a lot of people nowadays aren't going to do that. They're
Hmm.
going to just wait the 2 weeks because it's not that serious.
Yeah.
So I'm conflicted on that. And I would have to move my entire operation, and rent is so astronomical in
Oh,
California.
yeah. Yeah.
So moving from a place that's twice as big, I'm actually getting such a good deal on rent right now that even if I move to a place twice as big, I'd be paying probably over 3 times the amount of rent that I'd be paying right now. So
Yeah. Oof.
just to be able to make that money, I'm not sure if I could swing it. So it's like almost we would have to be losing money to move into this new vision and see if it works. And then if I don't, then I'd be losing a ton of money. So it's one of those things that like I have a dream to do more, have more
Yeah.
techs underneath me. We could be offering more. Um, but it's just time. I barely have the time to do what I do now. So it seems out
Yeah.
of reach, but
Mm.
it's definitely in the Buddha noggin.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's fascinating insight. Like I imagine profit margins on reselling video games is like nothing. And then your labor and your console repairs where the profits are like a lot, right? So the difference in that. But really expanding your operation, starting small, being iterative is a smart way to do it for sure. But what you just described, that sounds like one, extremely fascinating. That's awesome. But
Yeah, it'd be a
it's also
blast.
a niche thing. And like how many techs are out there that would be like, I need to rent your desk for 2 hours because you have all the equipment. That could be a cool thing, but it's localized. It's like, would I get on a plane because I don't want to buy? I want to do my own Frankie, right? Like maybe I'm
Yes.
a new tech. I don't want to do my own Frankie. You got all the stuff I need. You got the Jovi. You got the whole setup. Like would I get on a plane and fly to you just to use your lab for 8 hours to get a Frankie done on my own? Is that worth it versus just spending your price on a Frankie and sending the PlayStation to you and having you do it? It's
Yeah,
like,
true.
and then it's but the like you would be the landing point for folks learning the stuff that they need to learn or do to start their own businesses. And maybe you would be spreading your knowledge out even farther. So someone from like North Dakota who's doing console repairs in North Dakota, right? Maybe no one, but someone could fly in, learn learn your stuff, go back to North Dakota and start their own business. It's fascinating to even think about. That's awesome. Maybe
Yeah.
a computer builder school of console repair.
That
Yeah.
was one of the things I thought about too, having like a weekend, like learn how to solder type school thing. But again, it's like that would have to be a business model. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That would
sure.
be something that I would have to do as a regular. And so again, there's a lot of ideas. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future because I do think that in order to keep things like lively for me at least anyways, because I've seen a lot of repair shops or computer shops as I was growing up, and every computer shop that I've ever been to has a guy that looks like me. It's about 40 years older, smoking cigarettes, and the place is a disaster. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not that I don't trust him to do the work. It's just that it looks like it looks like it's just not that great of an operation. But again,
Hmm.
that's what made me want to start my own place was because places like that fascinated me. Walking
Yeah.
in and seeing all the tech, even though it was a disaster, I
Yeah.
wanted that, but I wanted my own place, and so I have it, and it is kind of crazy looking in my back room. You know what I mean? It's not quite like a disaster, but there's a lot of stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So again, we're like an hour and 15.
it's
I
okay.
completely agree with you. I've walked into so many retro video game stores that are complete disasters, and they have like these stations where you can rent hours. Like you can play an Xbox, you can play a PlayStation, and you can pay $5 an hour or whatever, and have access to this library of games. And they're just completely awful in customer service. They're disasters. It smells bad. It's dirty. It's dark. I'm like, I have like deep inside of myself a passion for wanting to like run a video game store. And so I think that's also what clued me
Hmm.
into you and like staying is like watching you run your store and how you treat customers and how you present your store and customer service. I love all that stuff. I could do an entire podcast just about that topic. So I want to move on though.
Yeah.
So our outro, thank you again for staying with me for an hour, and you're super busy. You're on vacation, you're with your family, and yet you still like stepped aside for over an hour to hang out with my mug. So thank you for that. So last closing questions. What is your single favorite video game console? If you had to pick one.
Definitely, again, PlayStation 1 has the
Yeah.
best library of any console out right now. And people would say maybe PS2, but I would fight that because PlayStation 1 has everything, it just really does.
Yeah.
All the hits.
Like some people argue the Japanese RPG golden era was on PlayStation 1. So like Atlas, Enix, Squaresoft were all
Yep.
just like throwing so many games. There's another company I can't remember the name of that made Alundra. Dang it, their logo is like the pink
Working
cubes.
Designs
That's
or
it. That's the
Atlas?
one.
Working
Thank you.
Designs?
Yeah, Working Designs. Yeah. PlayStation One,
I
and
mean,
plus it had like
everything started on there. You had Resident Evil, you had the Silent Hill, you had Final Fantasy didn't, but I think the newer ones like Final Fantasy 7 was the first one. So that
7. Yep.
style of them, started. All the JRPGs you had, all the games that were on PC too at the time were coming out, like Quake and Doom and,
Yeah.
all of those games. And you had all the arcade fighting games on there. And then
Yeah.
you had like, Tomb Raider, all these legendary named games that
Yeah.
were like started out and like blew everyone's mind were on that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that 64 had like, Mario and all these Star Fox and all that, but it didn't have anywhere like 300 games on Nintendo 64. And how many
Hmm.
were there for PlayStation 1? There was like over
So
a
many.
thousand.
Yeah.
So, it was like the library was ridiculous on the
Yeah.
PlayStation 1. So, and of course, it has the best boot up sound of any console to date.
Oh, dude, that noise is just evokes emotion from me, and I could. It doesn't matter what I'm dealing with in life. Like I hear
Yeah.
that startup sound, I'm like, oh, I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
man.
totally.
Like
You
yeah,
melt.
I
Yeah,
love it.
totally.
It's the
Same,
best.
brother.
Yeah. So what's your well? You kind of cheated a little bit earlier. What's your your favorite single video game of all time?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard because I hate doing the like what's your favorite thing, but like I
Yeah.
would have to say probably Final Fantasy, and it's literally like I said, it's just because the way that game captured my attention, like from release to, it didn't let me down. That was the only game that I read about in all the
Yeah.
magazines, watched all the screenshots. The summons in that game, like I said, I was about the
Oh, dude.
newest thing. I wanted the
Yeah.
newest graphics, the newest everything. The
Yeah.
summons in that game, like I could watch them over and over again, and I was just like, look how cool I am. I have
Yeah.
this, like
Yeah.
you just felt awesome with that
Yeah.
game. So the music, the story, the full motion videos, I was such a sucker for.
Yeah.
I was such a sucker for them because they looked like what PS4 graphics look like now, but on a
Yeah.
PlayStation 1. But you could tell, like, when it switched from the full motion video back to the game, because the
Yeah.
game had crap graphics compared to the full motion videos.
Yeah.
But every time one of those popped up, you were like, this is awesome. Look at these graphics, like
Yep.
they did such a good job on it. So, favorite game of all time is it's got to be Final Fantasy VII. I know it's so
Yeah.
cliche, so many people, but it just is for many different reasons. And then PlayStation, because it was the first console that I was able to afford things on my own and do my thing on, and that's just where I'm at, with
Yeah.
that.
That's funny. Yeah, because I like I teeter and totter between N64 and PS3. Like PS3 is probably my favorite now, but N64 was my whole life like my favorite console for so long because of like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, like
Such good
legendary,
games,
right? Yeah. I could and the multiplayer experiences with GoldenEye and like the time I've spent with friends and bringing folks together in the neighborhood to play 4-player games on the
Yeah.
N64 was like had 4 ports on it. For the first time, the first console had 4 ports like built in. Didn't need a multi-tap adapter,
Totally.
and like
Yeah,
all the
totally.
games supported it. Yeah, but
Nintendo always
I'm
knows
with
what
you.
they're
Yeah,
doing. Yeah, they
they
always
do.
know what
They
they're
really
doing
do.
with that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII is also my single favorite. I like to say when I answer the question, Final Fantasy VII is my single favorite game, but my favorite franchise, my heart belongs to Zelda. Because there's just so many good titles across the entire genre. Final Fantasy wanes and goes and ups and downs. There's awful ones, there's good ones, but Zelda, the difference between their worst and their best is so tiny. That's like they're so good.
Yeah.
They always hit, and the genre is just so wonderful, and I love everything about Zelda. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
usually how I get around the question of like, say, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on a totally different note, I think it's kind of interesting that you can have a game that came out so long ago and they stay so loyal to the way the game feels. Like Mario Bros, the very first one, and then you can look at like the new Mario Bros Wonder and see like how it almost looks like not the same. It's like, but like it's Mario. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even Metroid Dread, playing that and playing like Metroid 2 for like Game Boy, you're like, this is pretty much the same. Like I mean, they stay so faithful, and you can't say the same about a lot of genres or like a lot of IP. They change them so much, and people need that change, and like it's pretty darn interesting.
It is. Yep. So kudos to Nintendo for that. All right. I've kept you long enough. Thank you so much once again for joining me. I appreciate your time. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, and thank you so much for making this. I know it took a while for us to get this going, and I've been meaning to do that, but I really appreciate you taking the time to make the show, your podcast, and make all the questions, because you're the one that did all of that preparation for it. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have me on your show and talk to everybody and be a part of your podcast. This is I would say the first ever thing that I've done like this, so it's been been pretty interesting and really enjoyable, and again another way to give back. So it's like it's super cool, and again, you don't very much. Again, you're really respected, but please do feel free at any time to share your podcast. It's at any time, share that on our Discord or whatever. And matter of fact, I need to add you to our website. It's not like it's a huge deal, but I'd love to do that. Add your podcast to my
That'd be awesome.
like streamers, and also in our Discord. In any way that you ever want to throw that link out there, you're more than welcome to do so. Whether
Awesome.
it's like, I think there's a streamers channel on there where like people say when they're streaming. It doesn't have to be a stream. Like, hey, next episode of the podcast is coming up. Maybe I can set up like an alert for people that are friends of the channel, like friends of the booter. And then it'll ping people if they decide they want to be pinged for your podcast, or just tell them to go to because you have a Discord, don't you?
Mm-hmm. I do. Yep,
Okay.
I have my own Discord too. Yeah.
You're more than welcome to hawk that. You're not a competitor or anything. You're more than welcome to say, hey, I do a podcast. Booter was just on the show today, so boom, check it out and subscribe to us. Feel free.
Yeah, thanks.
You don't have to worry about it. And again, I really appreciate your time. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love getting into the nitty gritty of like the business models of all the stuff, video games. You're actually the second video game store owner we've interviewed. There was another individual who's also named David, hilariously enough, out of Texas, Austin, Texas. Game Over Games, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
It's been a while. And yeah, so like he just runs a store like retail, and he's got a couple of branches. He doesn't do the console repair stuff.
That's cool.
So that's why I felt like you were way different domain. I could totally get into it, but I enjoy it. I love it. I love being in video games. I love the video game industry. You're a part of it. Like, I don't know if you know this. When you look at IGN.com, when you look at Kotaku, when you look at Video Games Chronicle, like the big names in the industry that are talking and publicizing things in the industry, the big trade shows, you have a slice. Like, you're in that. Like, you're doing console repairs on a console that like is legendary, and it's
totally
like. And so I look at it like that as well, and it's really, really cool. That's why I'm super passionate about it. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I'm more focused on like the greater gaming industry at large, but like honing in on this is so fun. It's so fun. It's great.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show, and thank you for all the time that you spend.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good evening. Go back to your vacation. Please, like, go to sleep or drink something or whatever you do on your on your downtime. Enjoy your family, and yeah, I appreciate that. So, listeners, you can find all of your. I would love to hear all your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, ideas over at 80bitpodsmash.com. Again, that's where my link tree is. You can go to all my social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, Discord. Give me everything you would like. This episode will go live an episode goes live every Monday at midnight. So please share me, talk about what you like, give me all your feedback. I would love to hear more about what you think of this episode. Go check out Computer Booter, computerbooter.com. His YouTube channel is Computer Booter. Go look at his live streams. Go check out what I have posted if you want to care. If you care about like watching him fix my specific PlayStation 3, the links are there with the timestamps. Takes you right to the YouTube videos. So go check those things out. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone here. So thank you. And without further ado, good night, sir. And I will see every one of y'all next week.
See you, Termite.
Thanks.